welcome to the panel of the international festivals. This is the fun part, actually. Usually we just do a panel about festivals. This year, actually, we can actually divide them to be European festivals and internationals. So here's my international team. And I will do a little short presentation to what they do. They're going to talk a little bit more about their festivals. And like, I will start with Gabe, who's from Epic Proportion Tours. That do, it's not a festival, but a touring companies that also do festivals and book on festivals. Coco, who is from GMA, Golden Melody Awards, which also has a festival called Golden Melody Festival, which is a kind of showcase festival and a conference in Taipei, Taiwan.
Yes.
Evan, who is our latest thing who takes care of Live at Heart Canada. And yes, there's a reason why we have so many Canadian acts this year. Evan is helping us to pick out Canadian acts, and that's really helped to get the things. And last, David Silbaugh from the world's largest festival, Summerfest, with over 1 million visitors.
Well,
over 11 days. So, but it's a fantastic festival. It's a really experience to be there. And later on, actually, I will promote a little bit of the panel after this when we have also Silbaugh, which is the largest showcase festival in the world. But Miracle comes later on and just talk about that. So, what's the difference between the European festivals and the international festival? That's what we're gonna try to find out here and see how they're booking and what they're doing. So, let's start with David. Tell them about Summerfest. That I didn't tell someone.
well, he did mention we run for 11 days, noon to midnight every day. We do over 800 acts over the course of the 11 days. We have 10 permanent stages and a few pop-up stages. So it's permanent infrastructure. We have 75 acres right on Lake Michigan. Get out your maps. Okay. Chicago is our biggest suburb. Oh, come on. Yeah. So the 75 acres does not include the parking. It's like a musical amusement park. Yeah. The main focus is, of course, the music. It's not, we don't do film, we don't do tech, we don't do any of that stuff. It's not a conference. And we do virtually, it's easier to tell you what we don't do than what we do because our lineup is very diverse and eclectic. It's difficult in our environment to get away with things like traditional jazz and classical music, but everything else is fair game. Is that enough, Peter?
No, it's not really.
Keep going, come on, keep going.
Keep going.
No, it's enough. So Evan, this is the latest because this festival is not existing yet. It will come in October.
So I'm
So
here
you're going to talk about the festival that's actually not existing.
Yeah. So what happened was I've kind of lived a pretty reckless life and done lots of different stuff. And I managed to run into Peter one day, and he's like, "Hey, I know these people from all over the world, and I have this festival." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know people from all over the world too." And he's like, "Well, my festival's really cool." And I'm like, but seriously, so our festival is a showcase festival that we're mirroring after Live at Heart Orebro. And so what's going to happen, so I have a kind of a little unique story about this, is that we're kind of in a very unique part of North America. And that's why we're actually chose to do it there. We're on an island called Newfoundland. And we're on a section of Newfoundland called the Burin Peninsula. So if you look at the island of Newfoundland, it's like this boot shape.
Yeah.
And at the end of that boot shape, there's 2 islands adjacent to it, which belong to France. So this area has towns, there's about 7 towns in total that make up this area called the Burin Peninsula, because the province of Newfoundland is broken into peninsulas. like the Avalon Peninsula, Burin Peninsula, Buena Vista Peninsula, or yeah, I'll tell you later. But so anyways, our festival is going to more work on the fact of like we'll have people will come down to have a very unique tourism experience as well, where we'll have shuttles between the towns that will take the bands and the delegates. We'll put them in groups of like A, B, and C for this year, the size that we have, and they'll be experiencing each town a different night. Where we'll have our panels during the day in one town, and then our shows between two other towns. Right now I'm still in the process of elimination, I guess you could say. So if this sounds interesting to you, let me know, and let's chat.
And Coco.
Hello, I'm Coco from GMA Taiwan, and GMA stands for Golden Melody Awards and Festival, and it's mainly supported by the government. And we actually started from the awards section first, and next year will be our 30th anniversary. And through all these years, GMA has become the most important music awards in Taiwan, not only in Taiwan but also in the whole Mandarin-speaking world. So, and the scale is the award ceremony is usually held in the evening of the last Saturday of June, and the scale is like 11,000 people in arena, and it's also broadcast by TV and online streaming worldwide. And right before the ceremony is the 3-day festival, so we have the conference, showcase, networking, and many other programs as well. And when we invite speakers and buyers from local in Taiwan, and from Japan, mainland China, Korea, and also from Europe and North America too. And the festival part is relatively new, a relatively new project, but it's getting bigger and bigger every year. And also with trying very hard to initiate showcase collaborations internationally. So maybe we can talk it more about this later. Yeah, just thank you.
And Gabe, explain epic proportion, because it is a special thing.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm Gabe Kubanda. I'm an artist, and I started this funky little DIY tour 7 years ago, last week, actually. And started out with just a simple idea of like putting bands together and going out on tour and sharing resources to make it a little cheaper for the artists, since it's just so expensive to tour. And most bands break up on their first tour or right after the first tour because it's so crazy. They lose so much money, all that crazy stuff. I'm sure a lot of you guys have experienced that. So we got an old school bus that ran on vegetable oil.
Nice.
Would not advise that. Did our first tour, myself as a solo artist in a band from North Carolina. And we toured around the country, and we booked niche venues like colleges and high schools, and we played military bases. And we were like, whoa, this is kind of cool. Let's go where the people are. We're nobodies, we can't sell 100 tickets at every single venue we're at. But if we go to where the people already are, where our fans might be, and if we can play in front of, 500 to 3,000 new people, well, maybe some of those people might like us and become our fans. And so that became kind of the mission statement, and we've been doing that ever since, playing like 100 to 150 shows every year. And we launched in Australia 2 years ago, and we're just launching in Europe this year as well. I was just in Denmark playing a bunch of shows, and we're doing the UK as well next 3 weeks. And so basically any artist that is family friendly, doesn't swear too much, can come and join our tour. And we basically provide all the lodging and transportation for free. So that's such a, huge expense for artists, hotels and gas to get everywhere. We all share the same backline provided by our sponsors like Orange Amps and Apex and all these kind of great brands. And in turn, the bands get to be exposed to all these new fans, but they're also my roadies, just like I am. They're also helping me out. They're also doing social media. They're also slinging merch at the merch table. They're doing everything. So they get this whole DIY kind of punk band experience, but they get to play to the military folks who are super grateful for bands to come and perform for them, you know, and they get to play to schools, and we get to influence teenagers and advise them on how to have musical careers. So I'll actually bring in the band with me into a high school music class, and we're back at high school again, and it's really weird. And we're just chatting about music, like, hey, you like to play the violin and the saxophone. Do you know what you could do with that out in the real world? No, because your music teacher's not telling you.
Yeah.
You know, they're just telling you how to play your instrument. They're not telling you what to do with it afterwards. So we kind of advise them and get to kind of shape their paths and have some intimate conversations with their struggles and what they're going through in school. And it's just a really fun, like, crazy time.
So, I'm going to go straight on the question they want to know, so they don't have to talk to you later. How many bands and how do you pick them out for the Epic Proportion Tour?
We'll take 1 or 2 different bands every single tour. We have a submission process on our website, epicproportionstour.com. And I think it's on our bands tab. You can hit the bands tab and submit there. Submit to be on our tour. We'll check out all the acts and see if it's the right fit for the right time or the right genre for the right area. Yeah, pretty easy.
How do you select and how many bands are performing?
Yeah, our showcase program is actually not that big a set of Live at Heart because we have only one location at a time and only 12 showcase slots for a total of 3 days. So of course we reserve most of the slots for the local artists, but so what we do for internationally is that we partnered with festivals, and like with Live at Heart, we do an artist exchange program this year. So the Magnates from Sweden went to GMA this year in June, and this time we brought our hip-hop duo called Ye Mao this time to...
Don't miss them, 8 o'clock on the
Yes,
concert
right.
house.
Thank you. Yeah, and so we also do the partnership with Tokyo International Music Market of Japan and also the Big Mountain Music Festival of Thailand. So, and our festival is pretty diverse, but I would say that in the past decades for Taiwanese, maybe pop, indie, rock, and folk are the most popular genre. But the hip hop and EDM are getting very, very strong in recent years. But because we do the festival collaboration, so if you want to get big, maybe you should talk to Peter. Yeah, but it's really nice to be here because I can watch the live gigs of all the artists. So maybe next year we can invite some of you to Taiwan as well.
Maybe.
So Evan, how are you going to choose and how many bands do you gonna put on?
So this year this is our first year startup, obviously, and this is more to do with meeting with the delegates coming over to meet with the government to make them understand how this can help innovation, trade, tourism, and culture in our region. Our region's suffering. Like I'm actually not from this region. It's where my father was born. So I'm kind of on this mission to help re-establish the region for a place of tourism and a place for music and a place for culture. So in this process, I have a board of directors who are kind of a bunch of old men that don't really know much about music.
Good plan.
But they know a lot about fishing. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so we just go through a process. I talk to Peter. The band submit. I have Peter.
Yeah, you have 30 bands?
Yeah, there's going to be about 30 bands. There's going to be 30 bands this year. The initiative is right now I have way more European bands that have entered than Canadian bands, which is odd, but. So yeah, we just go through the selection process of where these guys been, what have they been doing, looking at their profile, their background, and if this festival is going to offer them something, that's worthy for them.
And David, you just told me that you have 800 bands.
Yeah.
So how do you select 800 bands? It's not you. It's
Well, yeah, we book from the top down. We have major headliners, of course. That's the main draw, and we have to also cater to the local and regional artists and take care of them as well. But and we have a submission process that goes through Reverb Nation, blah blah blah. But I go to a lot of events like this in a lot of places, which is where I run into Peter many times.
Too many times.
Oh, too many is it? Fine then. So I go to a lot of showcases and see a lot of bands, and it's a lot of referrals from other buyers, because we're always talking, agents, managers, etc. So I'm always looking, and I'm always online as well. I can stumble onto something completely by accident that I totally fall in love with. I'm checking out one thing, and then a recommendation comes up, and it's like, oh, well, that's a cool band name.
So you take bands.
Sorry?
So you don't look at the stats or anything. It's more or less you take it because you
Oh,
like
yeah. I know everybody. You hear this all the time, whether it's at a conference or just talking to people. It's all about data. And they're all looking at numbers and YouTube and Spotify plays and all that other horse shit. I don't really care.
Down with the system.
Well, I don't care, because we have major headliners across the board. They're selling the tickets. That's the draw. I have the luxury, unlike a club owner, say, or maybe a smaller festival, where I don't actually need a band to be a draw. I mean, yes, I'd like them to be able to draw and sell beer and all that stuff. That's fine. But I don't need that. All I need to do is like it and appreciate it for what it is, So that's a place of luxury for me, because I have that ability to just do something because it's cool and it's good and I like it. I don't need you to sell tickets. I don't need you to have been through the area 5 or 6 times and built a following. And the emerging artist stuff, the up and coming artists, that's my passion. I mean, it's great booking big stuff. That's fine, and that's fun, and that has its own challenges, and it's nice when you can successfully broker a deal. But it's fine. It's a no-brainer booking Pink, right? It's a no-brainer booking Imagine Dragons. It's not like, do I really want these guys? Yeah. So that's the fun part for me.
That's kind of important to know, that the festivals actually are this way. When I book for Live at Heart, it's the same thing. We don't check your stats. We check other things like story. We check out if this is gonna fit for this scene. Is it the right thing? I mean, you all have done the right things as you're here, so that's I'm preaching for the believers. But how do you want to be approached? Because that's the main. I mean, even I have problems sometimes. Even worked in the business for a very long time. Sometimes I'm more or less like, how do I approach a person in the right way? Because it's like, what do you want to know, more or less? If they're not stats, if I can't go up and say, hey, I have 1 million streams on Spotify, what is it that you want to know? So Gabe, how is a good presentation for a band?
I love it when a band gives me all the information right away. I don't respond to people that go, yo, can I be on your tour? And with nothing, that's it. There's no links. There's no way for you to contact them. There's no come on, I know it's the music industry, but you have to have a little bit of professionality, Yeah. So Spotify links, YouTube. We want to see how you are live. We want to. Same thing with these guys. Like, we can take unsigned bands. Actually, we can't take signed bands because they charge too much. On our tours, we'll take unsigned bands and bands that want to work hard and that have something to say. Not just standing up and rocking out for the hell of it. You know, like we want bands to really have a cool message and be relatable to the fans that we're going to. And so we want to see that in their songs. We want to see that in their live stuff. We want to see that on their social medias. You know, I'm not going to take a band that's doing bong rips on Facebook Live because I'm taking them to a high school in the U.S. and that's like, you know.
You can do that in Canada, though.
We're going to Canada next, then. I was just playing last week in Denmark, and there's this really amazing Danish hip hop band called Monty. You guys should look them up. But they're like saying "F the police" like every time. They're these white kids who've never gotten pulled over ever. But I was like, dude, we can't say that in schools in the U.S. And they're like, yeah, we can here. It's all good, you know. It's totally different.
So Coco, since your festival is, I mean, it's an award show, so the awards is also. But you're picking artists for that, for the TV show. How do you pick out that? And also, I mean, yeah, the international is also collaborations, but the local acts, how do you pick them?
Okay, for the award ceremony, because we do need to like take care of the viewership. So usually we take someone really like famous. I'm sorry, but for the festival part, like I would say that like pretty much like the same thing Gabe said. Like we like to receive the live performance videos like YouTube or music videos to show that what your genre and your style is, because what we really care is about if your band, the artist really fit into this festival. And to be very honest, because like EML, the hip hop group we brought it here to Live at Heart, they're pretty famous in Taiwan. But when you're across the overseas, nothing, right? So the sad thing is, if you're very famous, you have a lot of Spotify clicks listening in Sweden. But when you go to Taiwan, go to Asia, you have to restart again. So the numbers are not the most important thing. We just want to find the right band, right artist for our festival.
And in your process, we already know.
That means buy him a beer.
I'm easy.
No, but I mean, checking out is like the process that we had this year with Live at Heart with the Canadian acts was actually, it was a lot. Evan was a big part of that process of us picking the Canadian acts out there, and the same thing. We look for the right acts that we want to collaborate with Swedish artists, and we want to get business done, because that's a little bit what all these festivals wants, is that get business done. Even if with David is more like continue to success stories and stuff like that.
But there is an aspect too, is that the people, like, you have to understand who the delegates are, the delegates who are coming in. Like, it's super important to do your research. So, for instance, like the delegates we have coming to Newfoundland this year, they're all based out of either, major festivals or showcases that you need to know why you want to go there. Like, why do you want to be a part of that? Why do you want to have a relationship with that person? And if you're headed that way, like, you just can't be everywhere all the time, right? So in that process, like, it's important, it's not just up to the booker, but it's also up to the artist to know, like, to have your own game plan. And maybe it's okay to engage with the booker and let them know, like, this is my strategy. And I mean, that could give you an upper edge on, what you're trying to do as well.
Also, and then I know special things that you didn't tell. So tell us about the 20 emerging artists program.
Special things that I didn't tell?
That I know.
I'm keeping secret. Oh, the emerging artist series.
Yeah, the 20 emerging artists.
Yeah. So we can put emerging artists anywhere on the festival, depending on the programming and if it fits. But there is I have a dedicated series called the Emerging Artists series, and so it's 4 bands a day every day for 11 days. So that's 44 bands. Do the math. And that's all up and coming. Those are up and coming artists from not just the U.S. but from they can be from anywhere, and they get treated like headliners do, like on our website. We can't, with over 800 acts, we can't just put everybody up on the website and treat them the same way. So when you go to our website, you'll see headliners and support acts and major or major minor acts coming up, where they have the photo, the click through to the bio, and all that, and all their social media stuff. We have a separate page dedicated to the Emerging Artist Series, where they're treated the same as everyone else, as far as headliners go. Whereas other people in the same day parts on other stages, they don't get that kind of treatment. So they have the photo, they have the click through, the bio, all of the social media. We build a Spotify playlist for them, and then I pull together from different manufacturers, whether it's Sennheiser or Orange or any number of manufacturers, pull together a prize package, right? So there's about $3,000 worth of gear. So every day we do a Twitter poll with the audience, and then the artist with the most responses to the Twitter poll walks away with this really nice sort of musician's care package. It's all stuff they can use, or maybe can't afford and have been looking at, wanted to buy, really high-end cables, things like that. And then the top two vote getters at the end of the festival get a radio campaign from the Planetary Group. So there are a lot of different additional benefits to being part of the program and being selected to be part of the program. And the selection process it's really just me.
Buy a beer.
There is no panel, there is no jury or anything like that.
IPA.
What he said.
No, also since it's we had the European festivals. I mean, Europe is a little bit easier for us. Most of us is here as Europeans and coming. Why should we go to your region? Actually, I mean, you're a touring thing for the whole of USA. So, yeah, why should we go to USA?
Because we're cool. Maybe because we need less Trump supporter people.
It's hard to go to USA because of the paperwork, of course.
I should mention, we take a lot of international acts. We just had a Argentinian band from Australia, band from Canada, plus a lot of local acts from the U.S. And we will help out with your visa process and write letters of recommendation and help out with all that kind of stuff because we know how difficult that is. But it's an experience. I will say it's not going to make you famous overnight. None of these festivals really will. It's just another, step in that musical evolution and a great chance to hone your skills live. The one interesting thing about my tour, I think, is that every single day you're in front of brand new people who have never heard of your name before. And every single day you have to prove yourself over and over again. Last year we had a 3-month-long tour. We weren't home for 3 months. It went all around the U.S. Every single day, like 60 shows, you're proving yourself to a brand new crowd. And that could be tough and daunting, especially if it's a bunch of military guys or college kids who are just busy studying, or high school kids who are like, I'm way too cool for this. But if you can break through that ice and grab them and bring them in, that is a talent and skill that is really hard to master. But you need that in show business. You're a showman. You're a showwoman, right? And so I seen bands, including myself, as an artist. We started on the tour day one. We're a little rusty. It takes us a few days to kind of work through the kinks. And then at the end of the tour, these bands come off so professional. They can conquer any stage. They can conquer any scenario, whether it's 120-degree heat out in Phoenix, whether it's snowing, raining, whatever, whether the fans are far away or trying to jump up on stage with you. You can handle any, scenario on stage, and you need that skill. And that's That's a skill that you're not taught. You have to do it to do it.
Coco, it's like Asia. It seems like they're more open right now to the Western music, and it seems like you're exporting more now.
Because as I mentioned before, like GMA has been attention in the Mandarin speaking world. So and actually Taiwan has been a hub of Mandarin music, pop music for a long time. And I know everybody wants to get into the mainland China market now, but I'll say that the market there is pretty tricky. So Taiwan and GMA could be a good start for you to tap into the Asian market. And also, there are a lot of different countries, markets like Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia. So the cultures are very different. Like in Taiwan, Japan, and Korea, we speak totally different languages. But you can still, if you've never been to Asia, then Taiwan will be a good like your first stop, and then you can learn about like the other Asian countries and other Asian markets. So just welcome.
And Evan, Canada. If you don't want to go to USA, you go to Canada.
Yeah. So if you want to have an easy time,
If you
and
can't-
if you want to have a
can't
good
get into
time. Yeah, I know. Music's all about breaking borders. So what exactly is the question?
No. Why should you go to Canada?
Because it has so much room.
I will tell you why. Because there's a Swedish artist in here, because Evan doesn't know it. But actually, Sweden has a treatment with Canada. So we can actually go straight into Canada and make money without a lot of visas and stuff like that, which we have to do in USA.
Yes, and we have. We're very hospitable.
Yeah, but it's also very big.
It's very big. So bring a backpack.